Fans, welcome into another edition of Trudel's Weekly Take, presented by Health Alliance and with Coach Jean-Guy Trudel. I'm Andrew Mossbrooks. This desk has gotten a little bigger. It's part of the new year. Happy New Year, Coach.
Happy New Year, buddy.
It's been a little while since we've done one of these, and a lot of games have happened since. But most recently, a couple of wins down in Birmingham. I think your team played really well that first game, 4-0 win, and then the second game you put up 7 goals, you win both, you get 4 points. Can't ask for much more on the road.
No, the approach we took was really, I loved it. Even the flu's been going around our locker room, and even though I wasn't feeling great, just listening to the boys before that first game, and I always say if you're emotionally engaged in a game, usually you're ready to go. Usually the skates follow, and I think that's what we were missing. I think for the past, I'd say 6-7 weeks, we just weren't skating. We were playing more of a kind of a defensive game, and just maybe because we lost numbers, we lost people, but that's just not the way to go. And we kind of changed. We just tweaked a few things, but I always say ultimately it's up to the players to decide if they want to do it or not. And you could see right before, just listening to them in the locker room, they were ready to go. I think they were a little upset of that loss we had there in Quad City, where we simply didn't show up. Quad City played a great game, but we just simply didn't show up or skated. And I think we had a pretty hard week of practice after that. We weren't happy with ourselves, and we got to Birmingham with a great attitude, and the players just decided to skate. And at the end of the day, I always say hockey, you can have all the X and O's in the world. If you don't have skate, if you're not skating, you don't have passion, you're not emotionally engaged in every single aspect, because like me, there's so many aspects of the game, there's so many momentum changes, so you have to be emotionally engaged in all of them, and we played a great first game, that 4-0 game. I think the first 2 periods were almost perfect hockey when it comes to a road game.
I think going back to that Quad City game that you talked about may have been sort of a self-message to the team. They saw how they played. They didn't like it. They addressed it over the weekend in Birmingham. But one thing that, and I know you don't like to pat yourself on the back, but you're so good at being honest to players, to media. And after that game on New Year's Eve, I thought you had a really interesting quote from Dave Aminian, who was talking with you, where you said, "We still think we're the team we were at the start of the season, and we're not that anymore because of some of the guys that have left." Can you just kind of elaborate on that a little bit more? I mean,
yeah, at the beginning of the year, I think there's some games we played like we did in Quad City, but we had so much skill. I mean, when you have McCormick that was on pace to win the MVP of the year, I mean, he was on pace for 35 goals. We had Reichs, we had Hart, we had all those guys coming in, even Anderson that was coming along, and all those players. So our depth was so, we from top to bottom, we were so good and so talented that we could go games without skating as much, and McCormick would find a way to score 2 and score the winner, or Hartsey would just dominate a game. And then, so we are not that team. I didn't mean it that we're not a very good team. I still think we're a very good team. We have to have that worksman kind of like approach to every single game, that skating, that going, that nonstop. And we were still kind of just going along the season thinking, somebody's going to step up and score 2 or 3, score the winner, and we'll win a game. And we're not there anymore. For us to win hockey games, we have to play detailed. We have to play very fast. Our approach has to be a little bit different, and I think the guys understood that. Like you said, I'm really honest with our play. We have a great relationship, player-coach, and we try to be honest with each other. Like, what are we missing? What's going on? And I think we all kind of came to a thing that we were playing slow. We were playing very slow hockey, and we were waiting for somebody else to do it. I still think we have the horses in the room to be game changers, but for them to be game changers, it's not like a McCormick. They have to work. They have to do the right things every single shift, and we did that in Birmingham.
But to be fair, the team that works the hardest can still get the win. So even if this team may not have I hate using the term skill, but maybe not as many pure goal scorers, since you're bringing up McCormick. Maybe this team doesn't have as many pure goal scorers as they did in October and November, but if they have the work ethic, they can still be the best team in the league.
I'm a big believer in that. I'm a big believer you win championship on that. You win championship on, and all those situations, like, on the PK, you have to have that pride. You have to be emotionally engaged in that penalty kill at that time to be the hardest working, duo on forward, duo on D, and just come together, play connected, and then you'll be fine. And that's where we were kind of missing a little bit. We were just kind of going out there to go out there, and it's hard also when you're putting new pieces in at the last minute. They have no idea about everything we do, offensively, our systems, our face-offs, and all that. So it was a little hard to come together, but I still think excuses aside, because we don't make excuses, we were playing slow hockey, and we had to change a few things. We tweaked a few things on our, different things on our forecheck or our neutral zone trap or stuff like that, and now we're playing fast. We're playing fast all over the ice, and we just have to keep going. Now it's about, we learned that we could play that way. Now it's about making sure that we do it consistency. Every single day we have to play that way, which is in practice, in games, we have to play fast so it becomes natural to us.
And there's a lot of, obviously, in this league change throughout. A couple of different players come in. We have somebody that's in here we have yet to get a chance to see, so maybe you can educate the fans a little bit more about Rylan Pashevitz. He's a goaltender that we signed just that weekend prior to playing in Birmingham, met the team down in Alabama. He's got a background at ASU, playing at Arizona State, so that's pretty prolific when you see that on the stat sheet. But what can you tell us about Ryland and his role here, obviously, as the backup to Eric Levine?
Well, we were a little disappointed in ourselves after 2 games, and I thought Dylan Kelly played good hockey. I thought we let him down as a group. I thought as players, as coaches, and I mentioned that to the boys. I'm like, maybe we had a big thing to do with losing his job, because as a coach, you have to look at the positive and the negatives, and the boys just weren't playing well in front of him. So sometimes you need to change, because I can't put Eric in there, every single game. He has to have his break, and we have to have a number 2 that guys play really well in front, because you don't want to lose those good habits while the games are going on. And I thought the 2 games Dylan played, it's not as well. I just think we weren't there. We weren't skating, and for me, that's kind of a red flag. It's kind of dangerous. So I made sure we understood that, me as a coach, maybe I didn't prepare the team good enough, and the players just didn't play good enough to make sure Dylan stayed with us. And then I had a chance that night when Jesse called me from Fayetteville to get, he was getting a goaltender that had a lot of East Coast experience, and he really loved this kid. He said he played great the 2 games he played in Fayetteville, and he said he has a great attitude. And Jesse was a goalie, Kelecki in Fayetteville, and he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you're gonna like that type of goalie. He's like, I know how you work, and he's a low maintenance, just a hard working kid. And we didn't get a chance to see him this weekend, but just his attitude, just happy to be here, great teammate, and hopefully we can get him a game here soon so we can see what he's all about. But we had to make a change that way. Unfortunately, it fell on Dylan, but I put a lot of blame on myself and the team for kind of letting Dylan down on that one.
How hard is that? I mean, you mentioned it. Obviously, DK played 2 games here. I think his first game played really well. Second one, some bounces just don't go your way. I mean, that's the game of hockey. But how hard is it to, I guess, not only make that move, but then, as you mentioned, tell your team that you guys may be responsible for what happened? Well,
when we have an honest, we have an honest relationship. Players, coaches, and I put it on me too. I didn't think I prepared the team well enough there when we went to Quad City, and I didn't think they played well enough. So as a group, I think we put it on ourselves. I always say this: if you're man enough to be able to say when you made mistakes, and you take it in your own hands and you own up it, and then you change something. You have to do something different to make sure it doesn't happen again. And kind of that's the message I wanted to send. Like, we love our hockey team. We're a happy family. These guys are great. We don't want to lose a guy because maybe that guy's struggling a game and nobody picks him up, or nobody, does the right things to make sure he looks good, no matter, even if he doesn't feel great. And that's why I was going with that message. I just want to make sure that every single day, nobody feels, you got to be confident, but you can't feel comfortable in hockey, no matter what level. Even if you're a guaranteed contract in the A, once you start feeling comfortable, it's when your career is starting to go downhill. And kind of that was the message, to make sure we don't let it happen again to one of our teammates. We back each other up. If a guy's not having a great day, like Dylan that day, probably two goals he could have had against that he could have saved. But if we would have worked a little bit harder, we wouldn't have gave those situations up. So it's just a matter of making sure that we do all the right things to make sure we help everybody on the team.
Well, it talks a lot about accountability, really, is what it sounds like from you and this team. And you guys have a chance to maybe get redemption, if you want to call it that. This weekend, you're closing out a road trip, a 5-game roadie with Quad City Friday and Saturday. So, I mean, on the forefront of your mind, you're coming off 2 big wins, but is it hard to not think back about the last 2 games that happened in Quad City, because the Storm won both of those games? So now this team has an opportunity to bounce back and kind of exact some vengeance?
Yeah, I don't look at it as vengeance. I look at it as we want to play well. We played 2 great games. We want to keep going. We want to build on those 2 great games. We want to play fast. Quad City's playing very well right now. I watch a little bit of their game in Huntsville, and I mean, it's not an easy building to go in, and they win 6-3, and then they lose in overtime. They could have won that game also. So they're playing really well. They're playing very fast, and they're dedicated to a cause. Like I always say, I think that game they blocked like 20-some shots against us. So
it felt like it.
Yeah, they really want it right now, and they're in a situation right now. I always say, every team in the league's in a different situation. They're in a situation right now. They need the wins. They really have to. Do it. And you can see they're playing that way. So for us, it's going to be another great test going against a team that's really hungry, that's very confident, and that's going to happen in the playoffs. We're going to go against teams that are, hungry, confident. So it's another great test for me. I never look at it as vengeance, or we just look at it as we want to be consistent. We want to play the same way we did in Birmingham, and playing on the road is not easy. It's those home teams want just like us here. We're hard to beat at home, and it's just like them. So we go there again with a little chip on our shoulder, and we're a little upset, but at the same time we want to play the disciplined way, the fast way, to make sure we come up with a win.
Can't think about Saturday just yet. We have to see what happens Friday. But going into Friday, do we know who our starter is?
Yeah, we're going to go with Eric. I mean, we as a coach, we went with our backup the last 2 games in Quad City. Didn't work out, so we got to change something. We're going to go with Eric the first game, and then we'll see on Saturday how Eric feels or how the game went. And it's always a decision after that I'll probably know right after the game. But right now, I have no idea for Saturday.
Right, and both those games, Friday and Saturday, in the TaxSlayer Center. It's not a home and home. We've had a couple of those this year. Both these ones are in Quad City. So 7:10 puck drop for both of them, Rivermen and the Storm. But for now, that's going to do it here on this edition of Trudel's Weekly Take. Coach Jean-Guy Trudel, thanks as always. Hey, good luck this weekend.
Thanks a lot, Andrew. Appreciate it, buddy.